As he passes through 3 phases of his life, Chiron must decide over and over again who he is going to be. From Miami to Atlanta, he grapples with a hard and violent world as he transforms from a child to a man. Who will he become? And how will the people and experiences of his past shape his future?
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
Today we're talking about Moonlight from 2016. Directed by Barry Jenkins. Written by Terrell Alvin McCraney and Barry Jenkins. Cinematography by James Laxton. Edited by Nat Sanders and Joy McMillan. Starring Trevante Rhodes, Ashton Sanders, Alex Hibbert, Andre Holland, Naomi Harris, Mahershala Ali, and Janelle Monáe. Michelle, how are you?
Hey Seth, how's it going? Happy February.
Happy February. It's going good.
February. Library. Blueberries. Count Chocula.
New theme. We're out of sequels month into February.
Yeah. Yep.
We're doing all films made by Black directors this month.
Yep.
And I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely looking forward to this versus last February.
Yes, last February we did romance movies.
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Turns out.
So this one, the movies will be spread out over a few different genres.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we got some emails in response to our Godfather 2 episode.
Oh, boy. Awesome.
I think it was our longest episode ever. First email says, "Hey guys, I'm listening to your Godfather 2 coverage. I was very curious because this is one of my favorite movies. I think it's also the rare occurrence of the sequel being better than the original. I fully agree with Seth that the sequel/prequel combo was really fantastic and very effective. Plus, it gave us my favorite actor of all time, Bobby D, and Al Pacino in the same movie, wink face. Speaking of, I found it absolutely hilarious that Michelle was shocked at the realization that young Vito is played by Robert De Niro. I agree about all the moving parts and characters really keeping you on your toes. It does require repeated viewings to completely sort out. I appreciate your bringing up what a heavy hitter John Cazale was. They don't make him like that anymore. I'll be looking forward to your coverage of the third movie. Hint, it is Notorious. Next year, with another winky face.
Wow.
Cheers, Katie from Retromade Podcast."
Wow. Well, that's exciting since we're joining her on her podcast in a couple of weeks.
We will be joining Katie. I don't know that we should say what movie it is yet.
Nope. Keep it a secret.
Oh, there's a PS. PS, a bit of trivia just in case anyone doesn't know. Al Pacino and Diane Keaton actually were in a relationship, albeit very low key, for 15 years. And Tom and Kay, aka Robert Duvall and Diane Keaton, share a birthday, January 5th.
Whoa. Wow. 15 years.
And
Did
that
you know
is
that?
the type of hard-hitting research that you can get from the Retromade Podcast, which we will be guesting on in a few weeks.
Exactly.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you so much. Wait, did you know they were in a relationship for 15 years?
Yeah,
Did we discuss
I think
this? Do we?
we mentioned that in the first episode, the first
Oh,
movie.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I heard it for the first time. So thank you, Katie.
Next email says, "Mitch describing how you would sit on a motorcycle had me laughing out loud. And this needs to be a t-shirt. The abortion scene is one of the biggest curveballs in cinema history. Keaton is great in her smallish role. Little known fact, I haven't rated this or the first film, and I probably never will. It's beyond rating in my book. P.S. I'm not a mob movie guy, but this is the peak, not even close in my opinion. P.P.S. Great accent this episode. P.P.P.S. Rated F. And then laughing emojis. P.P.P.P.P.S. One of the few sequels that surpasses the original, from Ben.
Wow. Thank you, Ben. I like that t-shirt idea. I want to be driving the motorcycle and then you sitting sideways with a scarf blowing.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it can say movie cycle friends.
Yeah, exactly. And like club established 2024.
Last email says, "Hi, Seth and Michelle. Mitch said that Vito looked like the human form of Shrek. And during the live pod, Mitch said that the human Shrek was attractive, especially if he had a beard. So if A equals B and B equals C, I can thus conclude that Mitch thinks Vito slash De Niro is attractive. Seth, however, did not think that human Shrek was attractive, but he agreed that Vito did look like human Shrek. His exact words were, 'That's true, it's undeniable.' So, using the same logic as above, Seth does not think that Vito slash De Niro is attractive, correct? To me, this movie, I mean, I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, I mean, you got me on that. I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
To me, this movie is one of the best sequels ever, and it was very nostalgic for me. The Godfather trilogy are 3 of the 5 movies my dad always watches whenever it is on TV. The other 2 being Phantom and Les Mis. Even though he owns 2 copies of it on VHS, one is unopened, a copy on DVD, and a copy on Blu-ray, also unopened, he can never get enough of it. He always told me that while the parts are labeled as 1, 2, and 3, the watching order should really be 2, 1, 3. The third one is my favorite of the trilogy.
What?
Only 525,600 minutes, plus a day because it's a leap year, until you watch that. I don't want to hype it up too much because I don't want you to have high expectations in case it falls flat for you. Although, instead of waiting until next year, I think the Godfather trilogy could be a potential film to show during the camping live pod weekend idea that Seth had. Finally, I have to agree with Mitch that Seth's accent for the half-star review was the best by far. You actually sounded like my cousin Vito. Bravo. Until next time, Mike.
It's a cousin Vito?
Apparently.
Wow.
Mike is great because he always brings the receipts.
Oh, he is
Yeah.
the troll. He never lets you forget anything.
Well, I appreciate it because I forget everything, so.
Well, same. He's been keeping track of my thoughts and things I've said for years now. So thank you, Mike. We appreciate you.
Hey, if you want to be like Katie, Ben, and Mike, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. All right, that's enough Godfather 2. We'll never talk about that movie again.
Wait, before we go on.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
You kept sending random Godfather 2 thoughts to me.
Yes.
And then you never followed through. You would just send a thought, and then he's just like, it's out there.
Yeah,
There was nothing to back it up. Were these just coming to you?
I guess so, yeah.
What was it? Like Vita and Vita. Wow. Would Vito and Clemenza go on a roller coaster?
Yeah, I mean, the first roller coaster in New York was like 1880 something. And so at any point during their walking around New York City, were they like, hey, let's go see that roller coaster?
Right. Like that makes sense. But just to get literally, wow, would Vito and Clemenza go on a roller coaster? And I'm like, where is this coming from? No answer. I was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, it was funny.
I like to imagine the Godfather having a good time every once in a while.
I liked it.
Yeah.
We can move on now.
Okay. So we're moving on to Moonlight. When I think of modern classics, modern masterpieces, this is like a high watermark. I'm very famously not an Oscars and awards guy. So to me, this film winning Best Picture is like one of the best Picture winners in recent times, maybe ever. I don't know. I don't know. Before Michelle watches a movie for the first time, she records her pre-watch thoughts. So let's go to that real quick.
When Seth first mentioned we were going to watch Moonlight, I asked him, is this movie about the piano player? And he made a face. I don't really know what the face was. Could be like, how did Michelle know that? Or she's totally off. So I'm just going to roll with it. I think this movie is about a person who's moonlighting as a piano player. I think, though, what is probably more interesting is what am I eating while I watch this movie? So I want to recommend, if you haven't had it, the rolled corn tortilla chips, the chili and lime flavored from Trader Joe's. They are so delicious. I usually can't stop eating them once I open the bag, so we'll see how this movie goes. But they're pretty much Trader Joe's take on Takis, if you've ever had Takis.
Sometimes you're real close on these. In fact, I feel like most of the time you're pretty close on these pre-watch thoughts, but you truly went into this movie not knowing anything about it.
I think I was thinking about Moon Book, Green Book, Green Light. There's got to be.
Oh, Green Book.
Was he a piano
Yes,
player?
Green Book is about a musician played by Mahershala Ali.
Mahershala. Right.
And it also won Best Picture.
Okay, then that's where
Got
my
it.
brain went.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Wow. Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, that came to me after I watched it, and I was like, hold up. I think I was thinking of Green. What is it called? Green Book?
Green Book. Yeah.
Green Light. I like. Oh, never mind.
Oh, you got the green light with the car. Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah. And then you're like, I think there's a movie out there called Moon Book.
Right. Exactly. But I remember this whole Oscars fiasco.
Yeah.
La La Land, because I saw La La Land and I was excited. I was one of the few that really did like that movie. I saw it in theaters. So I remember.
Oh, you are not alone. People
I guess,
love
but
that
it feels
movie.
like everyone around me didn't like it at the time. Anyway, and so when that whole thing happened, I remember another movie won. I just didn't realize it was Moonlight. So lots of connections were being made over the past couple of days.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned that you were eating rolled tortilla chips with chili and lime.
Correct.
And so I sent to you a song that's been rattling around in my brain for years, which is called Hot Cheetos and Takis. Had you heard that song before I sent it?
I've never heard that song and I loved it. Like as soon as you sent it, I played it and I was like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, if anyone out there is a fan of Hot Cheetos or Takis, you need to listen to this song. It's called Hot Cheetos and Takis. And every time you eat them, you will sing this song out loud or at least in your head.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Going into this knowing like absolutely nothing, that's a dream for me, like something as good as this, and you have no idea. At what point did you realize that this was like the story of a gay man who's like struggling with his identity?
Probably when we had Little and Kevin play fighting.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to hear another dream scenario for you?
Sure.
So I watched this movie with my phone on silent.
Oh, yeah.
Do not disturb.
Yeah.
By myself. No distractions.
Great.
Yeah. So that was a whole experience in itself. And because no one was with me, it was just me and this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was it? Like, how was the experience? Did you enjoy it? Were you devastated by the film? Were you like, okay?
No. I enjoyed the experience. I'm really trying to do very, very focused tasks. And so this kind of went on theme with my whole weekend. Like I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I cleaned the whole house. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, did podcast things. I was like, let's just continue with it with this movie. And this is the perfect movie to do that with. I did not want to be distracted at all. And truthfully, besides going to a movie theater, this is the first time I've done this at home in a really long time. Because it's always divided. My attention is always divided.
Sure.
You get a text, you'll answer it, you pause the movie. No, I didn't want any of that. I didn't pause this movie once. Well, once to record a scene. Because I was like, it like solidified my ranking.
Okay. Rating. What scene did you record?
It was the scene when we're in the third part. Okay, with Black, right?
Yep.
And we see Chiron driving and he picks someone up and the camera kind of like zooms out into this wide angle and it's
Mm-hmm.
following the door opening. And then
Oh,
the guy
okay.
gets in and we just follow. And I stopped. In my bed, I literally went, I
Clapped.
clapped. And then I filmed it and I said, this right here. This
Yeah.
just, I don't know why that I just loved it so much. And it's such a small part.
Hey, this movie I think is made up of a lot of great small
Yeah.
details, flourishes,
Yeah.
looks.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of reviews that I read that were like, nothing happens, nothing happens. And I have my own feelings about that over the course of the movie. Primarily, I think that, well, I think I'll save that, but
Yeah.
so much is happening. It's just very subtle, and our main character is bound up. He doesn't articulate
Right.
as we are used to characters on screen telling us everything all the time,
Mm-hmm.
holding our hand. I'll tell you, the first time I watched this, I didn't realize, because also I'm bad with names, I didn't realize that Kevin was the same kid throughout all of the three. He was the same guy throughout all three. I
Yeah.
knew that it was the same guy from the second to the third one. I didn't realize it was him back in the beginning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was a little disheartened to see so many people like, oh, nothing really happens. There's really not a lot to this movie. Rewatching it again, I was just like, I was pretty floored. I think that my rating for the most part might stay the same,
Mm.
but like I said, to me, if you ask me, I love old movies
Yeah.
and I definitely lean towards older films.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask me, name some modern masterpieces that we'll still be talking about in 50 years, this would be definitely among them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. And I rated this movie so early, which I never do.
Wow.
And then at the end, with that, I changed it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Up or down?
Up.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Santa
Wow.
has entered the group chat.
Gee, Willikers. So, how did you feel about the movie being split into the 3 chapters and doing these big time jumps?
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay.
Because it just kind of segmented it for you. And as
Mm-hmm.
long as you understand what's going on in the first and you're like, okay, this isn't while it's a lot of Juan
Yeah.
and we're
Mm-hmm.
learning about him, but then when you realize, oh, we're actually more focused on Chiron. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we go into the second part, and I was like, okay, this is who we're following. And it's
Yeah.
funny, there might have been a version of me that'd be like, oh, and I don't mean to jump around, but like the fact that we didn't go into Juan's death, like, did not bother me at all.
Yeah.
I was
Mm-hmm.
sad. I was like, oh man, but the way they told us, I was like, okay. Like
Yep.
it's almost like I have no notes
Mm-hmm.
but I have so many notes.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. How'd you
Sure.
feel? Do you like this form of storytelling?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I
It's,
think I've said before, when a movie is broken up into chapters,
yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah.
Not that I need so much hand holding, but I like being able to say, this part is over, this part is beginning.
Yeah.
It's just a little reset in a 2-hour experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be done clumsily, sometimes it's done well. I think it's done real well and understated here. I had no idea until researching for this movie. The writer, Terrell Alvin McCraney, a lot of places that you'll read online will say this is based on a play called Black Boys Look Blue in Moonlight. It's not. He never staged this as a play. And according to Barry Jenkins, he never like fully finished the story. And McCraney himself says, he's like, when you write a play, you write stage directions, right? Curtain up, stage left. He's like, I was writing cut to. He is a playwright, but he wrote this more to be on screen.
Hmm.
His original version had and I don't know that it was like split screen. I don't know if it would just jump around. It was supposed to be you're watching 3 separate characters go about a day in their life, and you don't realize until almost the end that it's the same man over 3 periods of his life because they have 3 separate names.
That's
So that's
interesting.
where the whole 3 separate name thing comes from.
Right.
Yeah, the kid in the beginning was like, my name is Little, my name is
Yep.
Chiron, and then my name is Black.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So learning that, I had no problem with the structure of it. I had no problem with the name part of it. I think Mahershala's speech in the beginning about how you have to pick your own name,
Mm-hmm.
I think that clears up why
Yeah.
we're seeing that throughout.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Kevin calls Chiron Black. That's his
Mm-hmm.
nickname.
Yeah.
And so that's the name that Chiron picks for himself as an adult. But learning that really helped me see the structure as it was before Jenkins came on and turned it into, the movie that it is.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love it. I love the different chapters.
Yeah,
And
I
I
love
agree
it.
with you about the Juan. I mean, he's not the main character, but he is in the beginning. So I did kind of want to talk about him a little
Yeah.
bit
Oh, of
first.
course. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it is sad, we found out that he died, but it doesn't feel rushed, you know. There's a lot of things that have changed, since we've seen them last. And so I don't know, it felt kind of natural.
Yeah, and his presence throughout the chapters as we go on is still there because he did have
Yeah.
such an influence on him.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but does Black become Juan?
I mean, in a way, yeah. I mean, look at the
Like,
way he presents himself, the
mhm.
choices he made, how he dresses. He even
Yeah.
has on his dashboard the crown. I
Yeah.
mean, this was his influence of life. So,
How did you feel? Now you're going into this. You don't know anything about who this is even about. How did you feel about Juan like approaching Little and like hanging out with him? Like,
yeah.
how did you feel about that in the beginning?
Well, at first I was like, okay, we're coming from a good place. We're concerned. And then when he doesn't take the kid home, him and Teresa, they keep Little for the night. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is like that made me a little uncomfortable because it's like this is like a missing kid, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once we meet Chiron's mom, and at
Yeah.
first I mean, of course she's upset and she's in her uniform. It looks like she's a nurse, maybe works in
Yeah.
a,
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, in the medical field. And we see the way she acts. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. But then as we learn more about her and Chiron keeps going back to Juan and Teresa's house for stability, just a sense of normalcy. I came around to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious how much of a cycle they're trying to show us here. Was Juan like Little?
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And is that why he's kind of pulling him in and trying to help him? Because he's very much acting like a father. I mean, he takes him and teaches him how to swim.
Oh my God. That whole sequence.
It's great, right?
That's when I was like, spoiler alert, this is a film.
Yes. Yeah,
This
yeah,
is a
yeah.
film.
Well, I don't know how like locked in you are right in the beginning. When Juan drives up and talks with the dealer, the camera is swirling
Oh yeah.
and moving and spinning around. Looks amazing. And like the cinematography in this, I actually looked into the camera operators themselves,
Yeah.
and 2 of the camera operators had only worked on this movie. One dude had worked on other movies before. Yeah. But it's always silly to say, well, this movie wouldn't work without X, Y, and Z, right? And I think this movie would work, however, but this movie is taken to another level through its cinematography. Just all the choices that they make. When you're in the water with Juan and Little, it feels like you're like drowning, but the camera's staying just above water. So it's like as he's teaching him to float, you have that same sense of like, I'm going under, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I noticed something about the chapters, and that is that throughout all the different scenes, Chiron is having a good experience with someone who will then betray him, or
Yeah.
he'll.
Yeah.
And for chapter 1 with Little, he has that great experience with Juan, where Juan teaches him to swim, but then also says to him, "Hey, there are black people on this entire planet. Everywhere you go, there's black people. We were here first." And he teaches him about how you choose your own name, all that stuff, right? Great. I mean, for a young kid, that's like a life memory,
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the scene where Little asks him, "Do you deal drugs?"
Yeah.
And my mom does drugs.
Yeah.
And he just, walks out. And we know that that's not the end of their relationship, but like, oh.
But that moment also was Little questioning his sexuality.
Well,
And
yes.
and that's a huge thing too. And for Juan to pretty much not shame him for whatever he might feel, one day you will know. That was huge.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's a big deal.
And you can see one start to, because, so we're not going to use the word, right? But Little's mom yells at him,
Yeah.
calls him slur. And so Little asks Juan, "What does this mean?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Juan says, "Well, that's a word that is used to make gay people feel bad."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "You might be gay." He's like, "You might not be that." And then he starts to kind of be like, and Teresa looks across the table at him and she's like, "No,
Yeah. We're not doing
like,
that.
we're not." Right. It's surprising. Everything with Juan is surprising because we're used to seeing the black drug dealer portrayed one way or shades of one way. Totally nothing like what we expect when we're first presented with this type of character.
Right.
And it's great. Mahershala is great. He won for this. He won Best Supporting Actor.
Nice.
And he's not in the movie that much
I
at
know.
all. I felt like I could smell the interior of Juan's car.
Ooh.
Like that old type of car where it's like leather seats, the stick shift, is like the thin rod. He had the CD book on
Yeah.
the sun flap. I was like, I feel like I can, I don't know, like it just, sometimes you see something and it connects you to a memory that's like physical
Yeah.
and very like sensory.
Yeah.
And it was like, I feel like I can smell that car. I feel like I can feel the amount of bounce that's in it from, early 90s shocks. And yeah, I was like, man, I wish I could go. Remember rolling up windows in cars?
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
What a time. It really like cranked your arm.
Yeah.
What a time. And then if it started raining, you're like, ooh.
Exactly. Or someone, comes up to your window and you have to be like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we already mentioned her, but Janelle Monáe as Teresa.
Yeah.
How did you feel seeing her?
I gasped. And in my notes, I wrote, Janelle Monáe. I was obsessed with her when Dance Apocalyptic came out. And I listened to that song on repeat. And then last night I played it for Aunt. And I was like, do you remember this? And he was like, I think so. And then we just danced around the bedroom for like a while.
Oh.
Yeah, to that
Oh.
song. Because like it's a great song. But acting wise, I thought she did a great job. She was wonderful.
I'm not really familiar with her music. I'm mostly familiar with her in different acting stuff.
Yeah. But she was great. I loved her character.
So it's close to 10 minutes before Chiron says anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finally gives his name, Chiron, but people call him Little.
Mm-hmm.
And when he says people call me Little, I don't know that his nice friends call him, you know what I mean? Like, I think that that's him just kind of taking on this somewhat mean nickname that kids
it's
have
not
given
endearing.
him.
It's not a love out of love.
Yeah. And that's why when he changes his name, it's like, oh, that's...
Yeah.
He's starting to take ownership of himself.
Right.
For himself.
Right.
So we meet Kevin, his childhood friend. The boys are playing soccer with a ball made of it's either garbage bags or shirts. It's hard to tell, but
Yeah.
basically a soccer ball made from trash. And Kevin tells him, he's like, "You're funny. Why do you let them pick on you? You have to let them know that you aren't soft." And so that's when they start wrestling. And Kevin's like, "See, I knew you weren't soft."
Mm-hmm. But there, right? That's when you're it, like, for me, a light bulb went off. I was
Right.
like,
You're like, oh,
oh.
something's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk about Naomi Harris
Mm-hmm.
as Paula,
Mm-hmm.
Chiron's mom. How'd you feel about her?
I think she did a great job. And like, to see her from the beginning, and then, because at first I didn't think she was an addict. Like when we first meet her,
No, no, no.
and then as we start to see, and then that whole conversation, when we see that Juan sees her selling drugs,
Right.
and it's this conversation of like,
Well,
where
she's
it's
not selling
no,
drugs.
I mean
She
he's selling,
is.
she's buying
Yeah,
drugs from him.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's just this whole exchange of, well, at least I know where I'm getting it from. At least you know where it's
hmm
coming from. You think you're my kid's
hmm
father. What'd you think of her?
I think she's great. I mean, it does take you by surprise because when we meet her, like you said, she looks like a nurse. And while she didn't like call the police because Chiron was missing overnight, which I thought was kind of shocking. If my 10-year-old kid just didn't come home, I would
Right.
be losing it. She does care for him, and a lot of responsibility is put on himself to take care of himself. But we start to see like the TV is missing suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry Jenkins and McCraney said that this is kind of where their childhood stories overlapped. So they went to the same elementary and middle school in this part of Florida
Oh, wow.
and didn't know each other. They never met each other until they were adults, and Jenkins approached him about working on this movie together. And so they said where, because McCraney is gay, Barry Jenkins is not. So they said where they found common ground in the person of Chiron was dealing with a parent who was an addict.
Mm.
And Jenkins was saying how he's working on this movie and he's the director and he has to, be on top of things and tell people what to do and give people direction. He's like, and then we started working with Naomi Harris as Chiron's mom. And he's like, I was like breaking down. He said it was like going to therapy suddenly because he's like face to face with his own mother, and
Wow.
like the experience that he had growing up with her as an addict.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, she's very, very powerful, and we see like a full arc with her because we're not introduced to her, as someone who's smoking crack, and then we see her bottom out, and then at the end we see her that she's in a facility of
Yeah.
some sort,
Yeah.
and she comes back around to, you don't have to love me, but you have to know that I do love you, which is like, oof, that's.
Ooh.
Yes, very,
That,
very. And she's the one who tells him, like, you need to talk to somebody. You need
yeah.
to talk to somebody. He doesn't have Juan, and she knows. I think it's in the second chapter. He comes home and she tells him, she's like, you don't love me anymore. And so she's known for years, that they are not, their relationship is not where it's supposed to be.
And Teresa has taken over that role,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which, mom's not liking.
Right. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
she's jealous
No.
of that. Even though she's
Yes.
not capable to be there,
Right.
it definitely hurts.
Right. So yeah, I think she's great. Naomi Harris, absolutely, yeah, great in this. And I think across the board, with having such a small cast, it's easy to say this, but everyone in this is really great.
Everyone is really good. Really good.
So chapter 2, Little has become Chiron, and he's in high school.
Yeah.
And I think if we go by the good scene, bad scene kind of setup, we have the good scene is Chiron and Kevin on the beach together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin and Chiron, when Kevin knocks him down because of the bully.
Yeah, Terrell is super scary.
Very scary.
So scary. I was scared of Terrell.
Very scary. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I did not go to high school. You did.
I did.
Were
yeah.
there bullies to the level of Tyrell where you were at?
I mean, not that I had to deal with. I just kind of, whenever their fight broke out, you all just ran just to see what was happening. But
Yeah.
I don't know to this level. I mean, I'm sure there was.
Yeah, he's like another level, and I think he's played really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But man, oh man, it's like
Mm-hmm.
leave him alone. Like what is Chiron doing to anybody?
Well, it's because he can pick on him.
Right.
We pick
Right.
on the
Right.
weak. Kevin cracked me up
Yeah.
when we first see Kevin again and he has to go to detention. He's just like telling Chiron about getting head in the hall in the stairwell, and just that whole scene I was just cracking up.
Which I don't believe. I don't know that I believe it.
Him fooling around with Samantha?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
I believe it.
Because he says, he's like, oh, I better leave before he sees me and changes his mind. And then he says to Chiron, you know, I'll tell you, but don't tell anybody else. And I know that you can keep a secret.
I maybe he embellished the story, but I think he was
Yeah.
definitely doing some things with Samantha in the stairwell. Oh, gosh.
Chiron is trying to psych himself up to like leave school because Terrell has told him like, I'm going to get you. And they're waiting outside. And yeah, that's when he sees Kevin. And Kevin keeps calling him Black.
Mm-hmm.
So Chiron goes to Teresa's and he's down and she's like, you can't hang your head in this house. It's all love and pride. And it was just cool to see like how much Juan and Teresa are into like discipline and supporting each other. And yeah, like I said, we don't normally get that from the older drug dealer character.
No, not at all.
While he's there, Chiron has a dream about Kevin and Samantha having sex, and he like wakes up. And I don't know if that's when he realizes that he has feelings for Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, or it's like this thing that he's been trying to not think about, because he says later on, he's like, I tried to not think about a lot of things for a lot of years.
Yeah. Suppress them.
Yeah, it's like spilling over now out of his subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So on his way home, on his way to school from Teresa's, his mom stops him. And this is now when we see that she's fully like going through withdrawals from not being able to get drugs. And she forces him into the house and then goes through his pockets for money. And it's real rough.
It's so intense and it's so sad.
Followed up with after school, Terrell corners him and mocks him for his relationship with Teresa and insinuates that Chiron and Teresa are having sex, and then mocks him for his mom and then his jeans, and like makes him like stand in one spot while they walk away. And it's like, oh man. I paused it at this point because I had to get up and use the bathroom. And like I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
I was shocked to see that this was like more than halfway of the runtime. I thought like 30 minutes had gone by.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, I don't know about for you, but to me, this movie just like flies by.
It's
Yeah.
It not for one moment did I look at my watch. Did I pause to see how much time I had left?
Yeah.
Like it never happened. It flows so beautifully.
Yeah. After all this, or because of all of this, Chiron takes the train to the beach. And I don't know, like, do you think he knew that that's where Kevin lived or was? Or do you think he's just going back to the water?
Yeah, I think he's just going back to the water because that's where he feels peace and connected to Juan. And I totally
Yeah.
can understand feeling very peaceful and calm near the water. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah, I think so too. Like the movie starts and ends with the water.
Right. Right.
And this is kind of like the middle, this will become a very focal point of Chiron's life. And I think it was Jenkins who said they wanted the water to constantly be around because that's what it's like when you live down there. You're always around the water.
Right.
So Kevin sees Chiron on the beach. They sit down. They're talking about like smoking a big blunt, and Chiron smokes it, and Kevin's surprised that he isn't coughing or whatever. And they're just kind of like goofing around. And then Kevin puts his arm on his neck and they like look at each other. And this was like, I was surprised that Chiron kind of initiated kissing him.
Yeah.
Because this is like incredibly risky.
Absolutely. It's incredibly just putting yourself in this vulnerable state. But,
Yeah.
Liquid or air courage, whatever you want to call
Oh,
it.
yeah. That's
It's not liquid courage. It's
air courage.
Huff Puff courage.
Yeah.
Also, they cried together. And or Chiron cried.
Well, yeah, they talk about Kevin starts out saying the breeze makes you want to cry.
Yeah.
Makes him want to cry.
Yeah.
And Chiron's surprised and he's like, "You cry?" And Kevin's like, No, but I want to.
Yeah. And we know he cries.
So Kevin asks Chiron what he cries about, and we get the great line, "I cry so much sometimes I feel like I'm going to turn into drops."
Oh, man.
And then Kevin
Ooh.
says, "And just roll out into the water, right?"
Did you ever have a moment with a male friend of yours, not like this, but where the two of you in high school level like shared such an intimate moment, crying over something, going deep with
definitely.
feelings? Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That warms my heart.
Yeah. I mean, I was always, like an emo guy.
Yeah.
And also, like, if somebody was going through something, I was trying to take care of them and
Yeah.
help them and be interested and, be like a good friend. So, but yeah, definitely.
It's just in high school level, I feel like we don't see this representation of two
Right.
high school boys having a moment on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Not going into the sexual way, just sharing and talking and crying,
Yeah.
and you don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, well, definitely, if you think of this like a coming of age movie,
Yeah.
how often are we seeing this from, you think of Dead Poets Society?
Mm-hmm.
That's high school kids and they're sharing their feelings ish.
Yeah.
But that's a bunch of rich white boys out in the woods,
Right.
like,
Right. It's yeah, it's so different.
So like thinking of this as like a coming of age movie, it's like, oh man. Then it kind of goes into a herd of movies that it's like way better than.
Yeah.
Like in terms of coming of age, this is like pretty great.
Yeah. What else is really great about this scene?
Yeah.
It's just the ocean in the background. There's no music. It's just dialogue and
Yeah.
ocean. And this is one of my favorite things about this movie is that we are intentionally using music. And when there's dialogue, it's just dialogue. And one of my biggest pet peeves and triggers. My sister says I shouldn't use triggers because like I don't really have them, but I'm trying to be better about it. But
that sounds like your sister trying to diminish your triggers, but okay.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I have this problem a lot in movies and TV shows where we have to have music under every piece of dialogue.
Yeah.
And we have to have so we can feel the emotion. No, I like just dialogue and let me hear the outside nature. They're at the beach. Let's hear the waves in the background and let's focus in on this. And this movie does this so well. Just had to say
great,
that.
Great
I just
score.
had to get that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Great score and great soundtrack.
Yeah.
So they kiss and Kevin initiates like sexual activity and it's all over very quickly, and it's not like very explicit
Right.
either,
Right.
but you feel a lot of weight behind like what just happened, right? Kevin drives him home, and they don't end in a hey, we're both gay, and hey, we're boyfriends now, and hey, everything's cool and we understand each other. But they end in a good place where they like shake each other's hands and like I think they say I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Isn't it? See you around, see you around. And so it's the first time maybe in the movie where you like breathe a little bit and you don't feel somewhat impending disaster for Chiron.
I don't know. I felt it.
Oh, you did?
I did. I was like,
Uh,
oh no. Like I was happy for him in that moment. I was like, this isn't gonna end well.
right.
Yeah.
So the next day, he goes to sit with Kevin. And before he can sit with Kevin, Terrell sits with Kevin. And he mentions a game that they used to play called Knockdown, Stay Down.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of manipulates Kevin into agreeing that he'll play it. And then seemingly randomly just picks Chiron. And it's just very like we know that Terrell has malicious intent towards Chiron, but he can't possibly know about like what happened between the two of them.
No, of course not.
And so it just feels like very tragic.
Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awful.
So Kevin agrees and punches him, and Chiron will not go down, which is like, you're just like screaming, like, just go down. Just stay down. Like, why? Like, but it might go back to when they were kids and Kevin says to him, you just need to show them that you're not soft, right?
Well, that's exactly it. And especially prove to you I'm not soft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he finally gets knocked down, and then Terrell and his buddies go and, kick the crap out of him until they get broken up by a security guard. And at no point does Terrell get in trouble.
I know.
Chiron has to go in and talk to the principal, and she's blaming him for not pulling them in. And it's like, oh my God.
And like getting the cops involved, and he's like, no, you don't understand. You don't
Yeah.
understand.
Right.
It's
And
only
she
going to get
doesn't.
worse. She doesn't.
Yeah. She doesn't get it.
Yeah.
So the next day, he marches very determined into school and hits Terrell with a chair, and then hits him again with parts of the chair until he's carried away. What did you think about that? Was that shocking to you?
It was. I was like, he snapped. This is it. He popped. Like the way he was walking in, I thought maybe we're just walking in and we're just going to take a seat and like, I'm going to pretend nothing happened,
Yeah.
like ignore the noise. But to do it in class, like to just pick up a chair and just go at him, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, we have snapped.
Yeah.
We have snapped.
I don't know that that's his mom. I don't know that that's Juan. I don't know that any of the influences in his life are coming through at that moment. It's just he's been pushed too far. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Juan would have guided him to do something like that.
No, I don't think so.
And even Kevin being like, you can't let them know you're soft. That's not what this is.
No,
he truly has been pushed,
Yeah.
Too far in too many different directions.
Yeah. Ooh.
So he's arrested. Kevin watches them take him away. And then we jump into the third chapter where he's now going by Black. So he's sent to either juvie or prison in Atlanta. And it seems like he just kind of stays there.
Yeah. Establishes his roots there.
Yeah. So I said earlier, I feel like if anyone wanted to make an argument for like, oh, nothing happens in this movie, I think that chapter 3 has simultaneously the least going on, but also the most going on.
Yeah.
Like the emotional weight, I think, is the most, and like the tension,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is all there in
Mm-hmm.
chapter 3, but it's very simple. Like, not a lot happens.
No, I mean, Chiron he gets a glow up.
Yeah.
My goodness gracious. Like,
Yeah.
my heart eyes were coming out strong. I was like, can we be any hotter? Oh my God, Trevante. Whew. Yeah. Like, my goodness. And to me, like, I don't know where he's gonna end up, right? But when we
Yeah.
see who he becomes, just in the physical
Yeah.
appearance, you're like, wow, okay. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that Black is him preventing everything bad that has happened to him thus far in his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he takes control of his body and his money,
Mm-hmm.
and he operates similarly to how
Mm-hmm.
Juan did. When the
Mm-hmm.
dude doesn't give him enough money
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, I don't think that he was actually messing with him. Like, I think the guy actually shorted him, and he chooses not to
Yeah.
beat the crap out of him. And, but he's still locked up inside,
Yeah.
and he still hasn't fully come to terms with his relationship with his mom.
Mm-hmm.
I do love his car.
Mm-hmm.
I love the crown on the
Mm-hmm.
dashboard.
Mm-hmm. What an
I was like,
ode.
I wonder if I could pull that off, No? Okay.
I mean, sure. I kind of want one
Yeah.
too, but I like little
Yeah.
things. I like little hats. It's kind of my
Yeah.
thing. So
Just a little. Maybe I should get like a little, instead of a crown for my car, I would get like a little jester cap or dunce crown for my
that is more
dashboard.
fitting. That's more
Yeah.
fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he gets a phone call from his mom first. She's like, "You gotta come see me." Then he gets a phone call from Kevin. And one review that I read, and I don't know if I pulled it, it might be coming later, but you see him as an adult and you see this like massive change physically and in terms of like confidence and how he presents himself with other people. But then he gets the phone call from Kevin, and the acting from Trevante Rhodes in this is like, it's incredible because his face just falls and he's instantly scared, curious, like all, it's like he's a kid. It's like he's a
Mm-hmm.
kid
Yeah.
all over
Little's
again.
back. Chiron is
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to get a call from your past that you weren't expecting, one that had such a heavy impact on your life, but yet you're not
Mm-hmm.
really expressing that part of your life. Yeah.
So we already mentioned about how he goes to see his mom and the conversation that they have. And Kevin, oh no, and Sharon decides to drive out to Kevin's restaurant. And this is my favorite scene in the movie. I think that this is just classic filmmaking with a good setting, two good actors acting off of each other. It's not big and flashy stuff, but for me, I feel all of the anxiety and tension, happiness between the two, like all of it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like overwhelming.
Yeah, I
How did you
agree.
feel
No,
about the diner?
yeah, I felt the same way. An overwhelming sense of emotion of, well, first off, Kevin's cooking for you and he's putting
Mm-hmm.
love into food, which is
Mm-hmm.
always, that's a love language in itself.
Yeah, I love as a cook.
I
I
mean,
love any movie.
that's the way you do
Any
it. You
Yeah.
have a pizzeria. Uh, and sharing that's very intimate in itself. And then the whole, like, I heard a song and I thought of you.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
when you visit me, I'll play that song for you. Another like truly like intimate moment.
Yeah.
And then we get the check out little Kevin with Samantha. Look who I had a kid
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
There's just like a lot is building, and Black is not talking, and it's just,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all these tiny little like social microtransactions that are kind of like in the way
Mhm.
over the course of this scene. One, Kevin doesn't know he's coming. He just sits down and doesn't like tell him who he is. There are other customers there that Kevin has to tend to and check out, and they can't talk 100% openly freely. Kevin asks him like, well, why are you wearing those fronts, like the girls that he's wearing? And then there's the whole thing with, hey, I have a child now. Like there's just so much. There's nothing like so aggressively like, why are you here?
Right.
Or like, why haven't you called me in 10 years? Or like, there's nothing like that. But it's just all of these things that accumulate to just make you like slightly more and more uncomfortable and tense. And at one point, Black looks beyond the door and you start to hear the cars outside. And it's like he can picture himself like, just get up and leave. Like, just
Mhm.
leave. This is
Mhm.
not going.
Mhm.
It's not going how I thought. It's not going to go how I thought. I don't even know what I'm thinking. Like, just get up and go. And he doesn't. He stays.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Yeah,
oof.
my anxiety. I was like, are we going to actually talk about the elephant in the room here? You know?
Right,
Like,
right.
what was the purpose of coming? We know what the purpose is, but I want to hear you somehow articulate it.
Yeah. Even like Black taking off the little, parsley or cilantro that he puts on it. And Kevin's like, hey, that's part of it. And he's like, it's, whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's okay.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah, Chiron says, like, I'm trapping, like, I'm selling drugs. And Kevin is not into it, not okay with that. He's on parole himself. And it's like putting yourself out there to like such a crazy degree and like seeing where the two cogs can kind of fit together and like can they fit together. And yeah, it's like I said, it's maybe the least amount of stuff going on in the movie, but if you're into it up to this point, I feel like your heart is just like in your throat.
No, this is everything. This is
Yeah.
everything.
So they leave and Chiron drives Kevin home, like how Kevin drove Chiron home all those years ago. And Kevin finally presses him, like, why did you come here? Like, where are you sleeping? Why did you come here? And he asks him about the car. He asks him about the fronts. They go inside, and Kevin talks about his life and what he has going on. And I think Black says, like, you have a lot of stuff going on, or like, that's real stuff or whatever. And so finally, Kevin says, do you remember the last time that I saw you? And Black says, for a long time, I tried hard not to remember. He talks about when he got to Atlanta, how he rebuilt himself. And Kevin talks about how he feels like Kevin was never worth very much and how he was never himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the acting here, in like, it's like a 3-second breakdown of tears, but not into like blubbering tears, It's not fully. But Black says, you're the only man that's ever touched me. You're the only one. And I haven't really touched anyone ever since. And then Kevin, it's like he feels the weight of all of that, but then he also smiles.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then we cut to them just holding each other.
And feeling the feelings. Embracing each other. Human
Yeah.
connection through touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's very non-romantic, it's very non-sexual,
Mm.
but it's like, in certain romance stories, you're like waiting for the two people to like have the big kiss and the fireworks go off. And in this, I feel like you're just like, I just want this guy to like be able to let go.
Right. I just want you to heal.
Yeah.
And
Like,
and
oh my
Kevin,
gosh.
he asks him, like, who is you? Like, who are
Yes.
you? And I love
Yes.
that because he's the only person who's asking him that. Like, this ghost from
Yeah.
the past who's like checking in
Yeah.
on you and be like, really, man? This
Right.
is like calling you out. And you can
Right.
reinvent yourself, but if someone influential visits you from your past and calls you out, that is going to hit hard. I don't care who you
Yeah.
are, how much work you've done. Mm-mm.
And Black says, he's like, you don't know me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Kevin's like, I don't know you. You
Right.
think I don't know you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we dissolve again to them holding each other, and then we dissolve again to Little on the beach in the moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks back at us. He looks back at himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the movie ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are you crying at this point? At any point? How are you feeling?
Am I crying? I did not cry. I didn't
Yeah.
cry. I like teared up actually when I learned that Juan died.
Mm.
But at this point, I was just so like my heart was like still processing and feeling the feelings and watching the beauty that I was just like present with it. But I wasn't crying actually, which is surprising because I cried everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that I cried when I watched this the first time. I didn't the second time. I think because I just was like feeling
Yeah.
so much. Like it's
Yeah.
not just sadness and it's not just beauty. Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
much going on. You're literally like, this is a human epic, right?
Yeah.
This is a story told about one person's life over several periods of their life. And there's so much going on. And then it just kind of ends.
Well, that's it. It kind of catches you off
And it's
guard.
like
To
shocking a little
me,
bit. It's like, whoa.
yes. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't really give you time to cry. I don't know. And watching it for
Yeah.
the first time too, you're just like, I'm really wrapped up and I'm feeling all these things. And it's just like over, and you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, I like that. That was really good.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. So I pulled this from an IndieWire article. It says, with a budget of 1.5 million, 2017 Best Picture winner Moonlight cost less than a 30-second ad during the Oscars. The reported price was 2.2 million. And among the category's 89 winners, it stands as the lowest budgeted film in the Academy Awards history.
Wow.
And now, I don't know that that's saying the lowest budget film to win Best Picture or just the lowest budgeted film
That's
to be
wow.
nominated for anything. That seems a little less likely,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
1.5 million, and I tried to confirm that price several places. That's what I saw. I only saw one place say 5 million. But even if it's $5 million,
Mm-hmm.
this movie made for that amount of money is a miracle.
That's
You had
insane.
sent me, it was shot for 25 days
Yes, that's what I was bringing up. Yeah.
with certain actors being around for only a few days at a
Uh,
time.
right. And also the fact that Jenkins made sure that the three actors of Chiron did not meet each other until after
Yeah.
filming to avoid
Mm-hmm.
any imitations of one another, which is wild because to me, the three of them are pretty seamless. Like, as they
Absolutely.
age, they are doing like the same facial expressions. Like, it made
Yeah.
sense to me that this was this person.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine like the amount of prep that you go into any performance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As you and I found for
Yes.
our silly little thing that we did, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine going into this knowing like, okay, I'm playing this guy and not having any idea what the other people are going to do?
Right.
Wouldn't that
That's insane. You would think you
like
would
set
want to
your teeth
have,
on edge?
yes, you would think you would want to meet your other yous so you
Yeah.
all can be on the same page of, okay, this is how I'm going
Nope.
to enunciate and what have you, right?
Nope.
Imagine if there was three of us doing Shrek 2.
Right. Yeah. It's great because it lets them be three different people, but there are consistencies to
Yeah.
the way that they play it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So this movie's made for 1.5 million to 5 million. I'll throw that in there just in case I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Goes on to make 65.2 at the box office. So crazy. Crazy money. 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.2 on Letterboxd, 99 on Metacritic. That might be the highest rated movie across those three that we've done. And yeah, 25 days for production. Before we get into what people think, I want to briefly mention the Oscars moment. I think it's a tragedy that this movie will forever be tied to La La Land because of what happened. And a lot of reviews that I read mention La La Land, which is just like ridiculous, unfair, unnecessarily. The two movies are nothing alike. They have nothing to do with each other other than this like one big screw up that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But this big screw up that happened is so wild and crazy that I think we should be able to talk about Moonlight without it. And we did, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it in the beginning. Whoops.
But it's also crazy to not mention it because it's so crazy.
And it's one of those even bad press is good press type deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it is pretty nuts.
Yeah. So obviously, people love La La Land. They would have expected it to win. When it won, it was like, okay, that makes sense. And had that screw up not happened and Moonlight just won, it would have been an upset, but I don't think we would have talked about it that much.
No.
Like, for example, a few years back when Coda won. Have you ever heard of the movie Coda?
Coda. Okay. How you spell it?
CODA?
Jeez. Me starting with the K. I'm like, don't even try, Michelle. An Apple original. No.
Exactly. And I think that obviously Moonlight is light years better than Coda. But my point is, movies win all the time. You know what I mean? The King's Speech.
I've heard of that.
Come on. Like, you mentioned Green Book. It's like movies come and movies go, right? If it wasn't for this huge dramatic moment, I don't think the movies would be tied together forever. But what a moment. I mean, this big production with these huge stars. It's about movies and Hollywood, and it's a musical, and it's this big fan favorite movie. And then it gets upset by Moonlight, which is made for $1.5 million. And yeah, I love it though. I love that happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that the people from La La Land got so happy and so excited, and it was probably like the culmination of their entire artistic lives, and then they had it taken away. I think that they handled it as professionally as possible, but when you see Barry Jenkins on the stage and it's like just chaos and all the Moonlight people are like what, it's very cool to see someone who thought they lost find out that they won. It's great. If you haven't watched that clip in a while, I would recommend checking it out, because it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So we asked some friends on Twitter what they thought. Justin at the real, and that's REEL, the real Jurston.
I don't know why that made me laugh.
Which is like, if your name is Justin, but then you're saying you're the real Jurston.
You're the real.
I don't know who to believe. I don't know who to trust.
It's Shelbyville stuff.
Yeah. So Justin or Jurston, I don't know, says, it's wild that in my first watch, the third act felt weakest to me because it had the least amount of quote unquote momentum. But after every single rewatch, Act 3 gets better and better. That segment alone is a perfect film.
Jurston.
Yep,
Yes.
I agree. Maniac Mike.
Mike, what's going on?
At Mina 707 says, first and last Oscar show that I saw. Good movie, took me by surprise. Unfortunate how many of the up-and-coming actors from it have struggled. And I agree. I think all these people are giving performance of a lifetime here. What are we doing? Put these people in movies.
I know. Use them.
Anthony at Black Cinephile. He's the host of the Double Feature Versus podcast. And he just came on our show to talk about The Color Purple from last year.
Hey, Anthony.
Anthony says, great film. I remember seeing this in theaters and thinking, that was a pretty great film.
Please tell me that's it.
That's it.
Oh, gosh, Anthony.
Yes.
That tweet gets 5 stars.
Paul at Trigraptor. And I've asked this before. Paul's cool. He's always tweeting about listening to us and recommending us to people.
Yeah. Hey,
Thanks, Paul. All the rest of you should be doing what Paul's doing. I'm just going to
get your act together. Be like Paul.
Yeah. Anyway, his handle is TRYGRAPTOR. And I've always read it as Trigraptor. But I realized it could be Trig Raptor. Anyway, Paul, you got to tell us what this means.
Maybe it's like Trigraptor, this product I use. I don't know what a graptor is.
Well, I know what a raptor is.
Yeah, but it's not.
And I know what trig is.
But it's not. Oh, like a dinosaur?
Yeah. And like trigonometry. So
yes.
I don't know if he's saying like trig raptor, like he's a math dinosaur.
He's a math dino.
I don't know.
That's super cute. A dino doing math.
Trigonometry isn't spelled TRY though.
It's not. He could be funny
anyway, though. We're confused, Paul. Please tell us how to say your name. Anyway, Paul says, poignant, powerful, beautiful, and tender. Beyond all that, it's fantastically structured, avoids dragging. A masterpiece through and through, one of the best movies ever made.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Paul.
Felicia at Cinemaroni says, I've only been able to watch this film once because it made me ugly cry so hard that I don't know if I can handle it again. Beautiful piece of art.
Felicia.
And she rated this 5 stars.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
This and Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh my goodness.
So those are some friends that we do know. Now we're going to go to a segment of the show where we hear from people on the internet that we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3 Star, 5 Star. Half star, 3 star, 5 star. All right, so these are reviews from Letterboxd.com. We start with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a film. And we go all the way up to a 5-star rating, which is the highest rating that you can give a film. And normally I read the half-star review in an accent. Sometimes I do accents from the movie. And I think I won't do that this time.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go with our standard, which is a British person.
There you go.
All right.
Okay.
I haven't done this in a while because I've been doing characters from the movies. So this is going to be
for so long.
Like exceptionally rough.
I'm pretty confident you're going to nail it like you always do.
Here we go. No warm-ups, just launching into it. Plays it ridiculously safe with the gay stuff and doesn't fill the void with anything of interest. Besides this, it feels too much like a film school project with no substance and an over-reliance on stylistic devices which are supposed to add meaning. Overrated in the extreme. Half star.
I don't know if that's your British accent. I don't know who that was, but that was that was not Seth.
Do you know in my mind what I thought? I was like, oh, I'm gonna do the doctor from Brief Encounter. I was like, I'm gonna do his voice. And that's what came out. So if you know what that guy sounds like and what I just sounded like, that is why I'm not good at this. But so the reviewer says, plays it ridiculously safe with the gay stuff.
Wow.
Overrated in the extreme. Feels like a film school project. And I disagree.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I disagree with that, sir.
Yeah.
Or ma'am person.
3-star review says, this didn't captivate me in the way reviews had suggested it might. Yes, it's shot with a confident assurance, and the performances across the board are all strong. But the plot never gripped me. There are too many other coming of age, gay or otherwise, stories out there. It never felt like it was going anywhere. Perfectly watchable, but not the best film of the year or even the month.
Even the month.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Wonder what else came out that month.
I know.
5-star review says, Moonlight conveys repression so well. This feeling of having too much to say, too many questions and doubts and fears, and being unable to speak a single word. A masterpiece, every single aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely.
There we
It's a good
go.
one. Very well said.
So, Michelle has a rating system, which is a schmovie, a movie, a film. So we assign one of those to this, and then we rate it, and we talk about our final thoughts and recommendations. Michelle, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I think that this is a film. I think that when I first watched it, I rated this 4 stars. And I think I'm going to stick with 4 stars. And as I often say, it's like at the top of the 4-star pack. It's a strong 4 stars. To me, when I say 4 stars, I say great film.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yeah.
I think that for what it's doing, good job. Looks great, sounds great, acted great, and it makes you feel a lot of things. It
Yeah.
makes you reflect on your own life. You know, what are the 3 time periods that define you, right?
Ooh,
I think
yeah.
if you haven't seen this movie yet, you definitely should, especially if you find yourself in the camp of people who perhaps don't love modern movies because you see a lot of CGI stuff, cash grab stuff. Hey, go see this one.
Did you rate it a movie, film, or schmovie?
Film.
You said film. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm rating it a film, as I teased
Okay.
early on. And this
Okay.
is 5 stars for me. This
Oh my
is a perfect
gosh.
example of a 5-star
Wow.
film. No notes. You should go watch it.
Wow.
They should show this in film school.
Amazing. So you said early on you had rated it and
Yep.
then you went up.
Yeah.
So what did you
I rated it 4.5.
Okay. And then that scene of picking him up in the car just tipped it over.
Yeah, for me. Did something.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm not higher in my we always say you got to go with your gut, right?
You have to go with your gut. And
Yeah.
I know what you mean by that because I'm like, why am I choosing 5 stars? But to me, it's like a no-brainer. Even though I
Yeah.
don't say it's not one of my favorite movies, right?
Right.
I don't know when the next time I'll watch it, but I definitely recommend it. And I
Yeah.
would watch it again. But it's
Especially
just like,
because it moves, right?
yeah, I mean, it to
you're not
me,
dragging.
and maybe it just hit right on the right day. Maybe I should watch all my
Sure.
movies with Do Not Disturb. But what you said along the lines of modern movies, and
Mm-hmm.
I made that complaint. Like, I don't like the CGI stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it really depends. I'm putting my foot in my
Yeah.
mouth, I think. But I'm like not impressed a lot of the times. And I'm
Yeah.
like, as we all know, you guys know who I am, a year and some change in. So this was like really, really good. It was like
Yeah.
really nice to watch a freaking good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like no bells and whistles.
No.
But using what you have. So another thing that I found out, I read an interview with the cinematographer. They shot the entire movie with one camera.
Oh my
They
God.
only had one camera. And
And
so they're doing
yeah.
close-ups, wide shots. They're doing everything one camera. And so
Even
it's like
yeah.
utilizing what you do have, and what you have are incredibly talented people, an incredibly talented cinematographer, composer, director, writer, and it's just putting all of those things to like, you know what? I'm changing my mind. 4.5 stars.
Okay, cool. Cool.
4.5 stars. Yep.
Just even like some of the shots we chose, were they necessary? They didn't really do anything. We have a
Yeah.
close up of Kevin smoking a cigarette. He's looking right into the camera. Right
Yeah.
into the camera. We didn't need
Yeah.
that, but we did need that. It's like,
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
again, the use of music, the score was so good. And you want
Yeah.
to turn me off from something? Put a fucking annoying song underneath the scene. Like,
Right. Right.
not always, but it's like one of my number one complaints
Yeah.
in content I watch.
Yeah. Something that I started saying a lot because people were talking about Godzilla -1 a lot,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which was made for less than $15 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this big monster movie with CGI and destroying cities, and it looks incredible. It looks great. And everyone was saying, how did they do this for less than $15 million? And all I will say is money does not buy talent,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so this movie is another great example of that. Money does not buy talent.
No.
It didn't buy them, you know, anything. And they won Best Picture, and I think deservedly so. So, hey, look at that. 5 stars and 4.5 stars right out the gate.
This is a good one, Seth. Thank you for choosing it.
February. Yeah.
Although I have to I sweated a little bit because there's a Moonlight that was made in 2011,
Yeah.
and I was like, did I just watch the wrong film? I was like, yeah. But I was like, I'm not going to annoy Seth with that text message. I can do a Google search, and I like cross reference, and I re listened, and then I looked at the director, and I was like, okay, I'm in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
Hey, if you can do a Google search Movie Friends Podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, and give us a rating and a review. Maybe even a subscribe. I don't know.
Yeah, don't
Wouldn't
you
that be
want to be
crazy?
alerted when new episodes drop?
Oh, God, what a terrible. I post our episodes to come out at 3 a.m. on Monday mornings. Hopefully, people aren't.
Well, no, that way when you wake up, it's in your feed.
Well, right. Yes, yes.
And if you can't sleep, oh my goodness, what a gift.
Right.
You can listen to us in your ears and we'll lull you back to bed.
That's right. What a gift
What a
we are.
gift.
And you can give us a little gift back, which is writing us a review, give us a rating, give us a subscribe. You can also send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Is what I just did allowed? Changing my ranking? 5 minutes later? Let me know.
Going back on your word? You know, we got no new reviews. And I told you guys last week that it makes me like a really sad Michelle. So I just want to let you know my week has been shit because no one has left us a review. I got to go harsh. I'm going hard.
I agree.
I'm
I
not
agree.
soft. I'm not soft.
That's right. You got to show them that you're not soft.
I'm not soft. So, yeah.
Hey, if you're not soft, you can also support the show. Patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. It's $5 a month. Gets you access to all of our additional episodes. It also gives you voting rights for what we're going to cover on this show. We're coming up. March is going to be the first ever patron voted theme. So it's not just one episode out of the month, the whole theme.
That's so much power.
It's great. It's really crazy. Yeah,
It's a lot of power,
I'm
guys.
a little nervous.
Yeah, me
about
too.
it.
Oh my God. I'm very nervous for this.
But you know what? You should sign up and you can put in whatever theme you want. If you want us to watch anime for the whole month, oh, please don't do that. But
Please don't do that.
God, why did I say that?
Shh.
Anyway, this is also an exciting month because we're starting our new kind of episode selection process, which means next week is Michelle's pick for this month. Michelle, do you want to tell the people what you've selected?
Yes. So I chose House Party from 1990. And I haven't seen this one in a really long time, but I remember having a lot of fun watching it, and Seth has never seen it.
I have not. And it's one that I've always been like, oh, I should really watch House Party.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a big comedy from the 90s. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So I'm also excited. So it's directed by Reginald Hudlin, and it's 100 minutes, and it's currently streaming on Tubi.
Awesome. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I'm excited. I did look at people that I follow and their reviews for the movie, and it was all generally pretty positive.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, all right.
Okay. And the reason I thought of this one, I was watching a doc on the 90s and big cultural moments in movie and television, and House Party was one of them. And it made me think of it again. And I was like, oh man, yeah, this is a good one. And then you were like, I've never seen it. I was like, well, we got to House Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for choosing a good one.
Yeah. Hey, I'm excited. 5-star movie from Michelle. That's a
5-star film.
5-star film. That's a rare one.
I mean, there's only few in that category, I think. Napoleon Dynamite for me.
Just Napoleon Dynamite and Moonlight.
And Moonlight.
Yeah. Well, anyway, till next week when we're talking about House Party from 1990. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Pecora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.